Hi, welcome to Miss Richardson's U.S. History 5-minute lectures. This information will be U.S. Notes 3.9, Fighting World War II. It includes information that aligns with the second section on your Unit 3 study guide. Now you have control over the lecture, so pause whenever you need, write down questions you have, rewatch and rewind as much as you need, and make sure you use your study guide when you're taking your notes. Let's go ahead and get started. So a lot of this goes along with the maps we did in class as well. But when the U.S. joined World War II, they joined with a plan on how to fight and how to win the war. The plan in Europe and the plan in the Pacific looked very different, but they ultimately had one goal: win the war and defeat the Axis powers. So these might look a little familiar. In Europe, this meant pushing the German army back to Berlin and forcing Hitler to surrender. This meant a three-pronged approach: attack from the west, attack from the east, and attack from the south. This would force Hitler to divide up his armies, weakening them and allowing the Allied powers, the US, Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and France, to defeat the powerful German military. So we have attack from the south up through Italy, attack from the west, we're going to come down through France and over, and attack from the east by the Soviet Union. In Europe, also known as the European theater of the war, the Battle of Britain had raged for some time. This demonstrated the tenacity and resolve of the British not to give in to Hitler. It encouraged and strengthened the rest of Europe and the US. This hurt Germany and their goals. The invasion of the Soviet Union also hurt Germany. It brought the Soviet Union into the war, giving the Allies the power to divide the German army. It brought the hardy, tough Russian troops into battle, forcing Hitler to focus energy and resources on his eastern front, the eastern side of Europe, and weakening his defense in France. This, coupled with Hitler's terrible defeat at the Battle of Stalingrad, again aided the Allies in defeating Hitler. At Stalingrad, Hitler overestimated his army and underestimated the Russians. The Germans attacked but were unprepared for the length of the battle. They were also unprepared for a Russian winter, lacking supplies and other needed goods. The Russian military simply waited them out as the Germans starved and froze while surrounding the city. This was a huge blow to the German morale and a triumph for the Allies. Following these triumphs, as well as the success of D-Day in France, the Allies built up their success and pushed towards Berlin. While the U.S. was fighting in the European theater with their allies, they were also fighting in the Pacific theater with their allies there. Their allies in the Pacific consisted mainly of Australia and China, neither one of which was notable for their military power. The U.S. did have a plan to win, however. The U.S. used island hopping to work their way across the Pacific. Island hopping, there we go, to work their way across the Pacific Ocean in order to create a supply line and gain launching points for attacks on Japan. After several bloody and brutal battles, Iwo Jima, the Battle of Coral Sea, the Battle of Midway, the U.S. gained some small islands and created their supply chain. They had worked their way close to mainland Japan, but the Japanese military were unwilling to surrender, even with heavy losses. Although the U.S. was winning most of the battles after Midway, the Japanese commitment was so strong that they refused to surrender, and the U.S. realized that they were not going to surrender. The U.S. feared the Pacific theater could be bloodier and more costly in lives than any other war in history, and we had to figure something out. And that's the end of U.S. Notes 3.9. We'll talk about what they figured out later. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.